So, what are your recommendations for backup plans or deployments for military personnel, spouses, and et cetera?
Mhm. So, regarding personal stuff, I want to talk about like business, like, well, there's a little bit of business strategy stuff there, right? Too. But regarding personal stuff, it goes back to having the self-care in place, being in a regular routine, right? Because if you're not already in a regular routine and you hit a really rough patch, it's going to be hard potentially to do that thing for you when you're so
Mhm.
focused on making all the things around you work because now you're missing a family member that helps the flow, right? So now you're trying to fill in the gaps and add self-care. Not a good time to be trying to do that. Not
Mhm.
that it's not important, but the likelihood,
You mean just starting it new
yeah, just
versus,
starting
yeah,
it at that
maintaining.
point is going to be tough. So usually, sometimes we all get hit upside the head with a last minute thing, right? But usually, when there's something on the horizon that's going to shift, like a big deployment, a big TDY, stuff like that. So in that case, it's really, really important to already have a self-care routine in place. And I'm talking about all of the self-care things, right? The physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And so having all of that stuff in place by the time that your service member goes is essential.
Yeah.
Having a couple days built in where if what you need to do is sit and scream into a pillow and cry without having to worry about running to the next thing, if you can, if that's a thing you can do, just build in a couple days because those first couple few days are the worst.
You mean the actual relocating to like arriving at the new
So the
location
deployment
or within the
specifically, I
deployment?
should have
Okay.
said that. Yeah. So like if your service member deploys, those first few days are the most hellish.
Yeah.
Um, there's always going to be days in between that are rough, but the first are the worst. And then you kind of get it into your flow and into, a new routine of doing things on your own or without your significant other there.
Yeah.
But I would say when they're getting ready to deploy, especially if you haven't experienced this before, if somebody's experienced this, they kind of already know what's coming. If you haven't experienced a deployment, those first few days are going to be a beast. If you can, clear them. Don't have any obligations that you don't have to have.
Mhm.
And allow yourself to have that time to just let the emotion out. Cry if you need to cry, scream if you need to scream. If somebody says, "Can I drop off a meal?" Yes, please. Do not say, "No, I'm okay," because you're not okay.
Mhm.
And that's okay. It's normal that you're not, but you're not okay. So when somebody says, "What can I do for you?" lean on them. When somebody says, "Can I take your kids for an hour so you can shower?" Yes, please. Okay. So those are like lean into the things we normally shy away from because we think we have to do all the things.
Mm.
Hmm.
I could
And
totally see myself doing that where I'm like, "No, I'm good," because
yeah,
I need to be the queen of all the things.
most of us do. Well, I'd say generally, right? Women, most of us
Mhm.
do.
Right.
No, I am carrying this 1,000 pounds by myself. I've got it. Don't worry about me. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why? No, your community is there for a reason. People are reaching out for a reason. A
Yeah.
lot of these folks that have experienced it, they know what you're about to go through. So yes,
Yeah.
lean into it. Say yes, please, when somebody offers you a break or a meal or, some line of support.
I
So
think that's a good tip for anybody, not even just military related, any female, because, I think we have this desire to, like you said, like really be superwoman and say like, no, thank you. I have the worst time asking for help. It is seriously a problem.
yeah, I relate to that. Um, Not anymore. So that's not true. I still want to be superwoman, so I still
Yeah.
try to. But when I feel myself getting to that point, I have to remind myself that vulnerability is strength. So
Mhm.
getting vulnerable with somebody who I trust, respect, my friends, my community, when they say, let me bring this to you. Let me take the kids. Let me do this for you instead of going, "No, I've got it," right? Cuz that's not to mock anybody. It's just cuz I know. And I know the outcome if you go the other way and you go, "Okay. Okay, you
Mhm.
can show up for me. I'm willing to let go of something for a little bit more peace of mind and space.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a strength.
I think it's important for all of us to actually remember that and to have that community to rely on. I know you were saying that you didn't really like develop a community because you were actually enlisted as well, and so but I could see how important it would be, especially you're moving, your spouse might be leaving, and all of those things.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've been places where my husband went wherever he was going and I had my community in place. Either I got lucky and I happened to have there was one duty station where we actually did have some extended family nearby, so that was amazing. And other places where I just built really strong bonds, friendships, because that's a thing that, most
Yeah.
military members can relate to. Like, we become each other's families.
Right. Right.
But when you go to a new place and you don't already have that in place, you still have
Mm,
to have something, some line to, hold on to keep you stable when everything seems to be buckling underneath you. When
yeah.
your service member goes and you're,
By
really
yourself
all by
now with
yourself.
these kids and responsibilities and all of the things. Yeah.
Yeah. So in that case, y- you know, make it a priority to build the community around you. Get out, do functions on the installation, go to the gym, go to where other spouses are hanging out. There's a spouse who you thought was kind of cool and you haven't really connected yet, invite her to coffee. And just like lean into that community. And if you're introverted, you're not comfortable with it, you really haven't actually found anybody that you want to connect with, where can you search online? There's
Right.
plenty of communities where people are going to get in there and be gloom and doom. Do not get lost in those community. Find the ones that are uplifting, that are offering advice, things that you can do to improve, not just commiserating with one another, which is
Right.
fine occasionally, not as a typical way of being, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, those things are going to be really, really important to make sure that you have in place or that you're intentional about building as you need to. Okay, so I also said that I would talk about like a little bit of the strategy. I've
Mhm.
mentioned this in other videos, but as far as it's not just business, it's life strategy too, but it's having your ducks in a row as far as what can you do ahead of time so that when you need that little bit of downtime when they go, whether it's let's talk specifically about deployments because PCSs are a little bit of a different, the full on moves with the whole family is a little bit of a different animal. Let's just talk about like deployments or long travel specifically. Um, those are coming up most of the time.
Yeah.
What can you do ahead of time so that you have that period of downtime? So can you schedule out your emails a little further? Can you create like spend a block of time and create a whole bunch of content and schedule it out so
Yeah.
you don't have to look at it during that time where you're like life sucks right now. Um it's about having things planned and your systems in place. And if that doesn't make sense to you, because that's not a thing you're used to doing, please reach out because
Yeah.
that's something that, either one of us could really help people with is systems and strategy and stuff. But if that's something you're comfortable with, rock on, but do it. Make sure you do it.
Mhm. I started this year putting, like making a yearly calendar of very specific dates that I wanted to, like, let's say I wanted to offer a special on this time of the year, because typically I'm very reactive when it comes to special offers or like launching something new or anything like that. And so this year I've been very intentional on what is upcoming, what's going on, and making sure that maybe I'm not launching in the middle of like spring break or something, whereas in the past it just be very, very random, very random.
Yeah.
And so I am definitely making sure not to do that. And so that sounds like what you're recommending is to really just plan and just maybe utilize to help you stay on track with those things.
Yeah, 100%. And people don't know this, but you and I have talked about this, and I have done the same thing
Yeah.
traditionally, like historically. Oh gosh, like next Monday is a holiday. I better throw up a sale, right?
Right. It's Black
Off the
Friday.
sale
Oh,
out.
no. Yeah.
Too late. It's too late at that point. So, yes, get
Exactly.
out. That this is great for deployments, but this is kind of just great for running a business, right? Get out ahead of what's going to be going on, what's coming up ahead of you, and have a plan in place. Already, have at least even if you're like your emails aren't written, your content isn't created, know what you're going to put out and when you're going to put it out, and have a plan to make sure that it's created in that amount of time that you need to put it out.
Yeah.
And then the other thing along any kind of accomplishing goals, strategies, planning is accountability.
Right.
If you don't have accountability in place, you're a lot less likely. I don't like to say it that way. If you do have accountability in place, you're a lot more likely to succeed.
Mhm. That's true.
Yeah.
It's definitely true because, otherwise you'll just keep pushing it off and pushing it off, or there'll be an excuse why you can't do it. And it's
Totally.
maybe a valid excuse, like, it's maybe a valid reason that you can't do it.
Right. But there's a difference between excuses and reasons too, right?
Right.
Reason, like my kid got sick and we had to go to the ER. That's a reason.
Right.
Excuse. I was feeling tired that day
I
and,
didn't feel like it. Yeah.
right. Like, uh, there are excuses, and our brain is really brilliant at helping us to believe the excuse is real and it's true and it's valid. If it's a reason, by all means, give yourself grace.
Mhm.
An excuse, lean into that accountability partner and knock it out.
Exactly.